Hey there, welcome to episode 154 of the Cafe Genius Impresarios audio program. I am your host, Dan Hugo, recording this at 7:43 a.m. Pacific Standard Time here in Greater Vegas on today, Friday, February 6, 2026. We normally publish this show on Fridays, so I think we're going to make it. Honestly, I really was thinking about recording this show closer to like a midnight, like late night. Early morning. But, and I was going to kind of riff, but I have actually created a list of topics, my usual topics, 3 bullets. The rule of threes still applies. But it will be a brief show, which I'll talk about briefly. In keeping with the show, if you're not familiar with Cafe Genius Impresarios, Cafe Genius, the 2 words, cafe with 2 F's, comes from Cafe Centro, an interesting, quaint little coffee shop that used to be in South Park, San Francisco, very, very near the ballpark. It was the AT&T ballpark the last time I was there, but it's the Oracle ballpark now. I think it used to be the Pac Bell ballpark, right? Not to be confused with Candlestick. It's where the baseball's played. No, but I think it was Pac Bell, not like singular, although it may have been singular too. But it's in a little park, literally South Park, not South Park, South Park. Grass, picnic tables, trees, the works. I had been there several times. Their tagline was "Where Startups Start." Famously, for better or worse, where Jack Dorsey was working on Twitter for some period of time, and that's that. So Cafe Genius, cafe is intended to be that sort of like interesting things happening at places like coffee shops. And then Genius was the Genius Lunch, which we used to throw together now and then. It was not my idea, but it was, I attended several times. The Genius Lunch during the Downtown Projects days were where people would actually gather at whatever lunch spot was picked. And if you had time, you could go, and if you didn't, maybe you didn't. And just catch up on things, a little gossip, a little updates, who's working on what's working on who, and whatnot. It was a good way to kind of exchange information, get out of the grind, set some things aside for an hour. It wasn't an all-day affair. It wasn't all about a free lunch and transactional engagements. Just catching up with people, who's up to what. I think they were very effective. And as I've mentioned before, I've tried to bring those back. The Genius Lunch, and then in the context of a second startup scene, I'm sure we'll talk about that again. So Cafe Genius, and then Impresarios. I've told the story before, but we formed Cafe Genius when we were getting the pitch workout room started in January of 2022. So I wanted to have a name for it, as pitch workout room was part of a thing. So it used to be more about experimental meetups and enabling gatherings like Pitch Workout Room, Pitch Mingle, the Meetup Collaboratory, and so on. But now it's grown a little bit into kind of a focus on our entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem. And we did have the Genius Roundtable first cohort, and at the time has most definitely arrived for a cohort 2. So it's kind of a wrapper around a bunch of ecosystem stuff, leaning on economics, but more. The Impresarios audio program is about the people who are doing cool stuff. Those are the Impresarios, with 2 S's, an unusual, maybe rare, but valid spelling. Cafe Genius Impresarios. I am always the impresario. Sometimes we have guests. It's been a long time, but we should have guests again. We'll get on that. The past 2 weeks have been super busy, which I will describe a little bit. This show is not about that, but it's part of it. So hopefully wherever you found this audio program, you're able to locate the episode description, which contains the show notes, including a brief summary, which I will read to you. It's one reasonable sentence. The links, I could have thrown in a bunch of links, but today's episode is what's the word I was going to use? It slipped out. Is by design. It's a brief show, explicitly brief. Maybe that wasn't the word either. So yeah, here we go. Just the normal links for today. We'll break this show into its various topics and do entire episodes about these things. So on that note, The summary of today's episode. I have been looking in the direction of the upcoming year-long Smarter Smart City Hackathon. Sorry, let me fix that. Not hackathon. Why did I type that? Challenge. I have been looking in the direction of the upcoming year-long Smarter Smart City Challenge, so forgive my distraction. Here are a couple of things on deck. The Cafe Genius homepage, of course, cafegenius.org, CAFFEGENIUS, no space, cafegenius.org. Spaces would be a %20, of course, no hyphens. I'm a fan of hyphens in names. I could have done with a cafe hyphen genius, but not the case. And my host, if we ever have a guest again, we'll have guest links. My host profile page, linking everything, buymeacoffee.com/Dan Hugo. Don't forget there's the Buy Me an Update audio program on Mondays. It's published there first, and then it makes its way to Spotify, Apple, Amazon, YouTube. So everything I do has YouTube and other various places to be found, and RSS feeds for everything. Buymeacoffee.com/Dan Hugo has links to all of the things. So that's that. And the Cafe Genius, just like all of my other content websites, desperately needs beautification. But the time is gonna. I actually have to work on a Smart City Vegas site so we can kick that off and stop depending on LinkedIn. So the procrastination comes to an end. Not right now, later, but yeah. So here's a brief episode. You're listening to it. So today's not going to be one with a lengthy episode of Impresarios. Hopefully that's okay. It is raining outside. I was either coming down with a cold or maybe just low energy earlier in the week. I just felt NyQuil symptoms. And I was talking about this, I think it was in Quaggling Sand, and I said, what are the NyQuil symptoms? I can't even remember. And I was like, sniffling. I couldn't remember nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever, so you could rest medicine. That's the correct, which with a clear head just comes back, because we were all infected with these commercials all the time. So, 2 all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. You know what that is. Nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever, so you can rest medicine. Well, when I was saying it, when I was feeling these things, I was like, what is it? Something with nighttime something. So I couldn't even get all the symptoms. But yeah, so I was having like headaches and stuff. But luckily, I didn't take any NyQuil. But it seems to have faded with some rest. So maybe I was just really, really tired and run down. So anyway, that said, various things hanging in the air, and I'm not talking particulates, I'm talking about issues, are making my neck hurt from shaking my head so much. So we'll touch on a couple of those. Not enough people are listening to this just yet, but the Genius Roundtable pre-meetups, virtual, I've talked about this before, need to start next week. At least getting the word out, because I'm really realizing just how difficult it is to get the word out about something, which is supposed to be good. I'm not trying to hey, buy my thing, right? This is about community elevation and so on. When it comes to that, nobody wants to oh yeah, hey, let me share that for you. Hey, let's do an interview on a different podcast, or hey, you want to come on, do a 2-minute segment on the news, whatever it is, right? There doesn't seem to be a willingness to do that. Now, to be honest, I've not really been pressing that. I haven't been reaching out and saying, hey, do 2 minutes. But I just find it odd that people are not more like, hey, let's help get that word out. And we're going to close on that. That's the final point I'm going to make, is that thing, which I'm noticing. So, but in order to get the Genius Roundtable second cohort up and running, we got to start somewhere, and the sooner the better, because it's going to take a while to get people to go, oh, okay, that's what that is. So yeah, getting the word out. It's a topic I've come back to more times than I care to count, and it is continuing to be problematic and possibly more problematic, which that can't be good. And I will talk about this more in the next episode of Coffee Solo, most likely, which will probably be recorded tonight or tomorrow. So look for episode 2026-0206 or 07, 01. If you're not familiar with the episode naming, where have you been? But I am profoundly disappointed, as I have been for some time, with the people in charge in this place. I wish I could do the Hugo Weaving, cool name, the Hugo Weaving thing with when he's talking to Morpheus in Matrix about his frustrations with people. Anyway, that tone. But the people in this place, or the people in charge here, or pretending to be when it comes to local economic development and maybe more generally steering this ship. And really it matters when they are not considering the population, but rather we'll just say the elites. I've done an entire episode on the Vegas bourgeois. So I've expressed some opinions there. I think it's going to be a problem. YouTubers talk about it a lot. But I think there are some finer points about local entrepreneurialism and getting access to resources and so on. And the people that are in charge, quote unquote, in charge, I think they're a little bit misguided, and I'm not sure they're up to the task of actually driving in a new direction with the ship they are on. Because guess what? We're all on it. Anyway, so first of all, the numbers and what comes next. I believe it was later in the day, probably in the evening, but it was, end of the day. On the 31st, the LVCVA, the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, finally published the December numbers. I didn't put a link to it. I've linked to it so many times. It's LVCVA, LV, Las Vegas, Convention and Visitors Authority, CVA.com/research. There's a link to it on top navigation. So research, and that's where you get a whole bunch of numbers. And you'll see the 2025 total visitors. You'll see total number of hotel rooms. So there's like a front page, the key numbers. I don't know if those are the KPIs. Did a whole episode on that too. What are Vegas OKRs and KPIs? But so you'll see some of the numbers. And I found it curious that some, I'm not going to say news outlets, but some commentary on the internet was floating around about, 2025 was and then they'd pick a number. They said, it was down to 35 million. And then if you kept reading, I don't know if that sound's being picked up. Noisy Raymond upstairs is doing his thing. So if you, maybe, it's picking up on the VU meter, but it's a quarter as loud as me speaking. So we'll see. So the people, random folk, were talking about how 2024, but they're referring to the end of November number, the total for 2025 based on the November total. So the total through 2025. So with that, so what they could have done is said 12 months previous, which is one of the ways you can view the data on that website I mentioned. So if you did that, you actually would come pretty close to what the actual reported number is for 2025 based on the December data. So in other words, this has been a hot topic that people have been waiting for and jumping the gun a little bit, but it was pretty close. So my guess, probably 2 episodes ago, I said it was probably going to be the posted number for 2024 minus as much as 10%. I was like, 7 or 10%. So I think I said it was going to be something like 38 million. That was not rocket science. It was still a guess. But if you just looked at the trend, you're like, it's probably going to be about as much as a month. And it basically was. So, so we had 11 months of visitors in 12 months from the year before, right? So we lost a month. Now that is not trivial. I'm not trying to make light of that. But yeah, so we had just over 38 million visitors with other numbers that are mixed in there on the homepage of the research section, but also you can look at the rest of the numbers with total number of hotel rooms, the amount of airport and car traffic. They measured daily traffic coming from California, so not the other states, I guess. And I didn't dive in. I don't know what data they're publishing nowadays. The airport stuff is interesting because I can't remember. I think they were making some comments like, the airport traffic is down to nothing. And I don't really think that was true. And as well, they report I'm not looking at the page right now, but I think they report an average room rate of $180. That's not cheap. But if you're hearing about $400 rooms, that means there must be at least a couple of under $100 rooms. And there are. You can go to Four Queens in downtown Vegas. I just saw somebody doing, who was it? Jacob's Life in Vegas, I think, on YouTube. I think the rooms are like $70. And Is there a resort fee? There might be, but that it's still a very reasonable room. Four Queens, the D, Four Queens, the D. Oh, and do they do Circa also? I can't remember. I honestly don't keep track of who owns which properties and how they're all related as closely as I could. But anyway, so some of the numbers that are being reported don't match up with some of the anecdotes that the YouTubers have been harping on, and that's how people make content now. Vegas is dead. Vegas is not dead. Look how empty it is. Look how full it is. Look how expensive the rooms are. Look how they're not that expensive. Look how much a bottle of water is or is not, etc., etc., etc. So I've been reading, and I did a whole episode on this. What happens when you don't account for the change in the value proposition, I guess you could say. I don't remember the title. I just did it 3 weeks ago, maybe. So the news, according to what I've read, kind of here and there, the LVCVA is really going for value offers rather than value adjustment. So what I mean by that is the promotional things that they did in September. I cannot remember the name of that. I talked about that specifically. 5 days of value or something. 5 days of, I can't remember. But they had this big promotion, and it was like, hey, free resort fees, or we'll waive whatever, voucher, whatever it was. So for a 5-day window, you could book some travel and come to Vegas and all that. And I don't know how they're going to factor that into the numbers. Like, do they know exactly who took advantage of that to come to Vegas, and how much of a bump did that lead to? And I went into, when we talked about this, like, essentially it's like a loss leader, and Vegas used to be built on loss leaders, the cheap buffets, the free drinks when you're gambling and things like this. They're giving you value in exchange for you staying longer, spending more money, staying out later, staying awake more, gambling more, spending more on entertainment, seeing a show, right? So, and we certainly have spent a lot of money on things like the Sphere and venues in general, and residents of various celebrity performances and so on. So you would think that would be kind of built in there, but I think what they're doing is they're gonna go with more. So the numbers must have been impressive enough so that they want to lean into promotional pricing to bring customers back for value, but not as a kind of a recognition that the value proposition has been way off and it's been skewed far too heavily towards the wealthy landed aristocracy. Sorry, aristocracy. My voice is fighting with me today. The weather is not good for me speaking. And I don't know if I've said this before. It's completely about sinuses and how my larynx and pharynx are dealing with that. So yeah, we can leave that there. So yeah, according to what I've read, they're going to lean into these value promotions, waiving resort fees, room discounts, package deals, all inclusive. I think the Plaza got some recognition for that. There's certainly a lot of money being spent on properties. Well, depending on who you believe, some people say they're not spending any money anymore. They're cutting people's hours and they're saving money on room improvements and general maintenance and other things. Other places you will read about how they're redoing all the rooms. You got the Vanderpump takeover of the what's it called? It's not the Cosmopolitan, obviously. It's the Hakkasan. Is that what she took over? I can picture it. I just don't remember. I think it's Hakkasan, right? Vanderpump takes over in Vegas. The Cromwell. I totally forgot that name. I mean, I can picture it on the corner. Hakkasan, whatever. The Cromwell. So there's a ton of money. They're like tearing out everything, redoing the entire place, putting her name on it. So everywhere. So money is still going in. So you'll hear Caesars is going under, MGM is going to be the first one out, et cetera, right? Circus. Well, Circus is actually making money, apparently, because they've just been a value place on the Strip, as in they're not the Bellagio, they're not Resorts World, they're not the Wynn. So kind of at the other end of that spectrum. And they're also apparently not the Excalibur. So you get to you get to stay in a place that's not considered among the worst places to stay. Yeah, so whatever. I've never stayed at the Excalibur. Did I stay at the, did we, somehow there's a Circus memory, but I don't remember the details. I don't think we've ever stayed there, we or me or anybody. But anyway, so Circus is actually, because they're still a value proposition. The places with the 50 and higher, I think they're creeping up. Resorts fees, not as much. So my contention is, without recognizing the objective of Vegas, as the objectives have changed over the years, merely by tweaking the KPIs. So the key performance indicators are monthly visitors, number of airport visits, cars driving from California, occupied rooms, average room rate. So those are the things that they look at and they measure. So they figure, oh, we can adjust the room occupancy rate and the number of people visiting Vegas if we give them a discount. So we'll knock off a couple of bucks on the room rate or the resorts fees, which are not in those published reports. Maybe they're hidden away in the details. But we'll just knock off a couple bucks. It's like trying to get that car off the lot. Your salesperson's like, tell you what I'll do. I'll throw in the resorts fees and we'll give you some vouchers for free dinner and a couple of dollars to gamble with. What do you say? You want to come into Vegas? And you're like, all right. But I've anecdotally, I've seen YouTubers talking to visitors and they're like, I don't know. I thought it was going to be a pretty good deal, but then the hamburgers were $60. And so I don't know. I don't know about that, but so rather than looking at what's the overall, like, if the objective is to bring back the value customers, the normal people, the volume of visitors that could come to Vegas and have fun and have a good time and that want to come back. If you just say, well, here, we'll knock off a couple bucks when you come next time. Okay, we'll come next time, but then we're not going to come here when it's normal prices. So you've basically created you can use the loss leader, but then not stay for the rest of the fun. Kind of the same idea, right? All right, we'll only go when there's a sale. I do that when I go for grocery shopping adventures. Like, if it's not on sale, do I need it? Probably not. So if Vegas is at their ridiculous prices, we don't need to go to Vegas. We can go somewhere else. Oh, they're having a sale? Okay, maybe. So I don't know that that's ultimately healthy for a long-term, any kind of a turnaround. So I think some people have been writing 2026 is looking to be a good year. I don't know if that's true. I think they're hoping by doing some fiddling, right? Tuning the numbers. So the problem with so my take on this, see, this episode is already not going to be brief because I wasn't planning on riffing so much. Oh, well. So about 3 million more people visited in 2024 than 2025. Okay. So about a month's worth of people. Not exactly, but pretty close. So while this is not trivial, 3 million people is a lot. 3 million people of 38 million. So if, the 41 to 38, that drop, and I'm rounding, so 3 point something million. That's a lot of people. That's more people than I've talked to today by a few. So it's not trivial. It's also not ghost town panic. I mean, the pandemic showed what it really looks like when the strip is empty. So people will wander around. Look, there's nobody here. Okay. But what about over there? So it's not trivial, but it's also not the end of the world just yet. But that means that there will be room to not acknowledge the sentiment we see in those YouTube videos. Vegas is dead. Here are the 5 casinos that will go bankrupt, all this stuff. So anecdotally, that you get these stories and people love making content. That Vegas is too expensive. And then my mom said that when she visited. It's been a year, like almost exact. It's been, it'll be a year next week. So it was too expensive. And to be honest, it was the resort fees and a restaurant that, it was a family thing. So there was some extended family in town. So she came up from Phoenix and she was, oh my God, that restaurant was we didn't need to go there. And I was like, yeah, we didn't. So the sentiment we're seeing on the YouTube video is too expensive, don't want to come back. It's not like the old Vegas, not as fun, not as much money to spend on the fun part. It's all in the fees, the lack of free parking and so on. The monthly data will get more attention through 2026, though. You better believe every single month, when those numbers drop, it's going to be like, see. And there will be more negative rants among the content creators, and the angst gets viewers, so that's how that works. But the people in the upper deck who are steering this thing will look down upon Vegas and repeat how things are fine. Things are looking up. We're sure 2026 will be a turnaround year. We'll see an uptick. We'll see a better, there's a lot of things going on, like inflation, the value of the dollar is falling. And by the way, when the dollar goes down and gold goes up, that's how that works. The dollar is less valuable. So now gold is more, wait, no, I can just buy less gold with the same amount of money because the gold is priced in dollars and the dollar is less. Okay. Anyway, so the amount of money people have in their pocket is probably going down, but also what they can buy with the money they have in their pocket is also getting worse. So in Canadians don't want to come here. There's a promotion going on right now. Circa for sure. Is he the guy that owns the D? And anyway, they were going to take Canadian dollars as $1 value, and I think the 73 cents Canadian is 73 American cents. So you get an extra 25 cents for every dollar, for every Canadian dollar, right? So they give you a US dollar value. Now, it wasn't just a broken exchange rate. There were some conditions, right? Vouchers or certain things, right? So you couldn't go elsewhere on the strip and spend your American dollars and so on. So, but still a promotion. Apparently that was not getting a lot of hoots and hollers, or what would I think they just said take off and they called the guy a knob. No, I'm just kidding. Great White North. But yeah, my concern is that people making these decisions are they're not thinking big picture. They're thinking about those KPIs. I've talked about this before. So enough about that. The roundtable meets the challenge. So I mentioned the Smarter Smart City Challenge, not hackathon. There will be hackathons as part of the challenge, which will be getting some serious attention from me anyway for the remainder of this month. We want to kick off an early sign-up window on March 1st and then see how many people are actually interested so that would be like a gate. So at 150 people, like, okay, we have enough people to actually make this interesting. If I get 5 people, challenge over. But the Genius Roundtable is absolutely essential. I think more so now than it was when I was talking about it a couple months ago. And luckily on a completely different timeline. So there is not, unless this changes from the discussions that we hopefully will have about putting together the second cohort, there's not a start and an end date to fit between for the roundtable, which honestly was one of the issues with the first cohort. There's no essential need to start in January. Obviously, it's February. That was something I really tried to accomplish so that we could have one meeting each month for the entire year, broken up into 4 sections of 3 months, so that entrepreneurs are busy. I didn't expect you to spend one day a month through the year. I wanted you to spend 3 days, one day for 3 months, and then hand off to somebody else. It was an interesting experiment. I would never do that again. We can discuss what we could accomplish and how, develop the communities of practice model and how we want to approach it and how to implement it for what we want to accomplish and so on. And then we can go from there. So we can start when we start and we don't really have an end date. People can come and go. The communities of practice can kind of be self-regulating and see what we want to accomplish. So I think that'll be much more effective, not only effective with outcomes, but an effective use of time and participation and so on. Theoretically. At the same time, getting this moving along during the Smarter Smart City Challenge would add something, in my opinion, with some pondering of how participation, depth, and breadth might figure into the entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem. So in other words, if we get 150 people, that's still disappointing. It's enough to move on to the real, engage, all right, because the 150 people will kind of do what I'm talking about with the roundtable. Okay, let's talk about what will make sense for incentives and prizes. How do we want to do the demos and the finale of sorts, if there is one? Do we want to do verticals? Like one day will be public safety, the other, whatever it is. So these are the things that we can talk about so that the people who are participating will go, oh, okay, yeah, they've taken into account the various things that people, who live here, you can't ask people to say, hey, we're going to spend all weekend with pizza and Red Bull. And like, that's a non-starter for normal people. Because that's what a hackathon is. When you ask someone, oh, is that where you stay up all night? And you're like, no, it doesn't have to be. So we'll spread it through the year. We can have some in-person hackathons. We can have some virtual hackathons. We can do a lot of things. So the 150 people, it will take more, can chime in on that. And then we'll kind of get everything sorted. And hopefully we'll get some sponsors if there's incentives, and we'll do stuff with food and venues and so on. And we'll get this thing going through the year. So if we can start in April-ish, that'd be amazing. Probably more like end of April, mid-April to sometime in May. It'd be cool if students could participate over the summer. So at the end of the day, we won't get like every single day of March 1st to January, whatever. And I'd kind of like it to align with CES, so we could do something in conjunction with that, with all the people coming in for CES, kind of show off what people accomplished. But we can also determine, based on who participates, what, this doesn't sound right, but I'll say what kinds of people. People who lean towards tech, people who lean towards entrepreneurialism, people who lean towards neighborhood, people who lean towards citywide, like larger scale. So there's all kinds of different facets to the participation, and that might lend some insights into how the entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem is faring now with our assessments and the direction that we can look at. So the roundtable could take a look at this in real time as part of what we discuss and consider and analyze and so on. As well, the roundtable could, across the communities of practice, I assume there will be at least 2 or 3, could have challengers included amongst them, or vice versa. The challengers could be on the communities of practice groups within. So an intersection would be interesting. So people who are actually participating themselves and who can talk about the tenor, maybe. So let's find out. Yeah. Finally, this is the closer. So there's 3 more items. Pardon me. We're at 34 minutes. So it's basically now going to be a normal episode. I think I've been talking faster than normal too, but no help. The first roundtable cohort, and this was like 3 years ago now, because it was January. So I think it's been 3. Did we start in 2022 or 2020? I think we might have started in 2022. Might have been. I gotta look. Anyway, the first roundtable cohort led to my writing a 15-page paper about what Vegas lacks. That was the working title of the paper. So what are we lacking here in Vegas? And I broke it down into what, like when it comes to this, and then here's what we could do about it. Just a, off the top of my head discussion, or a suggestion, I should say. There was no discussion. I wanted it to be the discussion, and that never really took place. That's why I think the first cohort was kind of a missed opportunity, but also a learning experience, which everything should be. So I had one section about the happy or sad level of Greater Vegas, the Greater Vegas area. Some may recall that delivering happiness was this notion in the book was important to the late Tony Hsieh, who kind of put downtown Vegas back on some map somewhere and injected this notion that, there is a whole startup scene in Vegas and whatnot. Maybe. And I had found some anecdotal accounts here and there concerning the low levels of happiness around town. I could never really nail down like where the data was and whatnot. So it was more like, there's a general sense that people are unhappy or that they're not comfortable financially in Vegas and so on. Like, well, that's it's very qualitative. But I recently came upon a more current survey. It was from, a month ago, 2 months ago, like end of 2025, basically, I think. So we're not going to go into it today, but I will say, pardon me, so more surveys and longer trends would obviously be more useful. Like having one survey is interesting, but not conclusive. That's one reason to have the rolling introspection. Anyway, but the survey that I came across, and it was reported on by local news, and then I have the link to and these surveys are done by like Wallet Hub or Fandango or something, who knows, right? So I don't know show me something from like a business school. If UNLV would do a good survey, they don't. They do they do a selection biased, in my opinion, surveys. And then they write papers on them that are fairly generic. Here's the research that we just did about and you're like, nothing. You're talking to the same 200 people. But so the study that I'm referring to indicates that indeed the Las Vegas area is among the less happy places in whatever the number of cities were that they had in their survey data set. So we'll talk about this more, but I thought, oh, that's interesting. So the qualitative tidbits that I had found when I was writing that section, it was a small section, but they seem to bear out a couple of years later in a more structured survey. So that'll be something to talk about. The LinkedIn page for Smart City Vegas, so Smarter Smart City Challenge, is under the Smart City Vegas banner. There will be a website that I need to work on to solve this problem, or at least address it. It's a tool I'm using, though, to LinkedIn. Tool I'm using to get the initial word out. So I created the page, sent out a bunch of invitation requests to people in my network. I will say that the Innovate for Vegas Foundation, which is the fiscal sponsor for this challenge, has 860? No, I think it's 861. Should I look? I think a couple more people just started following. So I've been inviting people to connect personally on LinkedIn like a crazy person for the past 6 months, because I wanted to grow our following for the Innovate for Vegas page so that more people would just know about it. So I'm using it as a discovery. So 860. Is that right? So 860. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's right. So it was 858. So now it's 860. I see the 2 new people. Okay, great. So as a tool to say, hey, this exists, what we're working on exists. But historically, and note that we created this page when we first formed Code for Vegas Foundation. So Innovate for Vegas Foundation has been around since 2022, June. So we've been around for a while. So we got 860 followers. So the Smart City Vegas page has been around for 2 weeks, or maybe it's about 3 now. And we have, what is it now? I'll just pull the page up here. I think it's going to be 73. This is why I want to check. 75. Okay. So 75 followers in 3 weeks. So that's not horrible. But here's the thing. As is true for the Innovate for Vegas page, so is true for the Smart City Vegas page, which is this: follow and never engage again. Now, following somebody's, hey, can you follow that's essentially what it is. Hey, can you follow my LinkedIn page? Okay. And so you get a follow. So I've invited 300 people. So I caught that right at so I put the page up. It's been a week. Okay. So it's been 8 days. I put the page up on the 30th, I think it was, of January. And I was like, okay, if I can invite 250 people by the end of January, then LinkedIn rolls over and you get 250 more invitations that you can send out for the month. And if somebody follows, you get the credit back, the one, right? So if you get 250 invites out, the end of the month, you get 250 more. And then as people follow, you will get 1 more, 2 more, 3 more. So you'll get 250 plus 250, and then you'll get however many people follow added on. So I invited I think I actually got 249, and then it hit the whatever time zone they were in. I was like, oh, okay. It wasn't midnight in Vegas, but so the 31st, I got 249 invites out. And then I have now gone through all 250 invites. And because we had 70, what did I say? 73? What's the number? Numbers are hard. Yeah, we had, let's call it 70. We had 70 when I tapped out the 250 invites for February. So that means I sent out 249 invites. We got 70 back. So we had 70 additional invites, and I've sent out 250. We would have to do some auditing there to get those exactly right. But, so we're talking, say 550 people invited. We have 75 followers as of right now. That is not great, but here's the problem. None of these 75 people will interact with anything. They won't. I doubt very much that they're reading. They just treat it as okay. And so nobody's resharing. Well, and first of all, LinkedIn is Instagram. I've talked about this before. So that's the first thing. LinkedIn is kind of garbage, kind of. No, it actually is garbage. I joined LinkedIn in August of 2003, not 2023. So they launched in May and I joined in August. So I've had a LinkedIn account continuously for 22 years, right? Coming up on 23. And it has just gotten worse and worse. Microsoft acquired them. That's part of the problem. So the trend for LinkedIn to become much more oriented towards selfies, right? Here's me having a coffee, working on my laptop, looking cute, might delete later, right? It's that kind of stuff. And hey, more power to you, but LinkedIn is changing into Instagram. And then what is Instagram? You just scroll by stuff. So who reads anything? So my expectation would be, hey, here's what we're working on. Here's what it is. And I think people are going, oh, okay, I know you. I'll follow your page, whatever. I'm like, okay, I've tried reaching out to people like, here's what it is. I'm going to invite you to follow it if you're interested. They don't care. Now you get 0 responses and so on. That's pretty typical. That's Vegas. So people accept the follow invite, then they avoid interaction completely afterwards. And third, there is no sensibility about resharing or helping to cast a wider net, if you will. So I think in some cases, there will be people who say, oh, okay, I know you. I will follow your page because I know you, and I will not explore what it is I'm following. I know you good enough. I'll help you out. Now, I'm going to give you the food truck comparison because I can do an apples to apples. When we did the Food Truck Owners Association in the San Francisco Bay Area, Silicon Valley, the food truck owners were supportive of each other, and they recognized the value of cross promotion, co-opetition, right? So there's a big body of water in the middle of the Bay Area, which prevents people from just going anywhere, right? You got to go to a bridge. So that meant that if you're on the peninsula, but your favorite food truck is across the bay in Oakland or something, you're like, oh, well, let's see what's going on around here. So the food truck owners, they would get their followings on Twitter. Their fans would follow them, and they're like, hey, we're going to be here tonight in Oakland. But if you're on the peninsula, check out our buddies, the other food truck at this. And that was a way to say, hey, we know you can't get to where we are. You might want to. Why don't you go help out one of our friends and visit them and get to know them and so on? Because, food trucks, portable variety, social activation, the more people who like and enjoy food trucks, the better the entire market does. So rising tides lifts all boats, almost exactly. Not to mention, the more people that have a good experience with food trucks, the more likely they will visit food trucks, the 4-visit rule, if you believe that one. They will become a regular, but they'll also tell their friends, oh, food, you mean roach coaches? No, I go to food trucks all the time. They're great. They're not bad at all. They're actually really good. And so you'll get a little viral effect. So the more that can happen, the better. And then you had fans of food trucks who are resharing and they're taking pictures of their food and they're posting them on Twitter and now Instagram and so on. So there's this whole little economic machine that turns, and it doesn't really work if food trucks don't care about other food, like me. So I'm not saying, and here in the Bay Area, here in the Vegas area, it was not like the Bay Area. When we formed the Nevada Mobile Vendors Association, I found that most of the owners were very solipsistic. Like, I don't care about the other food. Why would I promote someone else's business? It's hard enough to promote my business. It's just a very different mindset. I don't know if it's big picture versus like panic mode, but I do know that the terrain here, the health department is not really entirely pro mobile vending. The Nevada, certainly Southern Nevada, the restaurant, what is it called? The National Restaurant Association, or is it Restaurant Owners? I think it's Restaurant Association. They are very anti-food truck. You're stealing our customers and you don't have to pay rent. So the feelings are different here. I will, what do you call it? Stipulate that. But such a different attitude, a complete lack of awareness that improving the market is a good thing. right? Now, if you improve the market, if you make more people fans of the marketplace in general, whether they're a fan of yours or not, there'd be food truck owners here in Vegas that are like, I don't want to tell anybody where I am because then people will steal our location. And I was like, well, that doesn't work so well. Like, how are people going to find? They drive by. So, but then it's true that people here would do some sort of cutthroat, hey, I'll do your event for free, that kind of stuff. So my goal when we had our association here, I would always tell people we should have one more location available at any given time than the total number of members of this organization. That way there's always a little bit more demand. We could have more than one, but so anyway, the value proposition is like, oh, we can help each other, and that does help each other. It helps everybody. So here, by way of example, there used to be an entire notion of like, hey, let me help promote what you're doing. I don't own the food truck, but I'm going to retweet, I'm going to shout out, I'm going to post some photos, and they're going to like my, they'll, hey, thanks for taking a picture of that. Hope you had a good time, whatever. And so there was a very literally social engagement relationship happening. And that was ultimately helpful for anyone. It was fun. It was a good way to keep my favorite businesses in business and so on. Here, I don't now, foodies and people that are being paid to promote things, let's leave them out. Normal people, and especially the Instagram model where you can't really they used to call it regramming. There was an app that would take the picture, you would download it, then you would upload it to your account, and it would add a little attribution line, and it would fill in some starter text for the caption, and it would have the original photo account. Okay, that's great. But that was an afterthought. So Instagram is broken by default, has broken that notion of resharing. And I haven't used it in a long time. They may have changed it again. But the take home is like, there's this whole, I'm just going to like your thing, whatever it is. And that's how I'm going to support you. Did you read it? No. But I liked it to help you. And that's not as helpful because it'd be nice if you could help cast that wider net. So yeah, the people in the food truck industry totally get it, except for in Vegas. But when it comes to the LinkedIn post, I'm like, so literally, I have to do a post that says, hey, if you want to help us out, you can reshare one of the posts that we've made here. You can tell a friend in person, right? I shouldn't have to do that, but it is the new era. And that's just really bothersome. And I'm concerned about the nature of the entrepreneurial ecosystem. Not innovation, you don't have to have that, but the entrepreneurial thing how do you even tell people that you've launched your business? Where does that happen? On LinkedIn? Come on. And the takeaway because we want the Smarter Smart City Challenge to invite everyone, right? We want to there's 2.3 million people in Clark County. They should all have an opportunity to say, oh, that does sound interesting. Well, how do we reach those people? They're not on LinkedIn. They may be on LinkedIn, but they're certainly not going to see what I'm posting because of the algorithms. So I just think that whole system is broken, and it's a fundamental gap that does not enable the nature of startups and entrepreneurialism is like, hey, come check out what I'm working on. Hey, we just launched our thing. And Silicon Valley, that whole history of it is like that. So I think that's a tremendous problem. It's a significant problem. Finally, for today, the same problem, so I kind of gave this one away. The same problem exists in the real world, like human to human contact, as exists on LinkedIn. I'll just like your thing. I didn't read it. I'm not gonna click the more. That's why everything. Oh, you gotta have the hook, and you gotta have the first thing, and then they want to click more, and then there's a call to action of some sort after you do a 27 one-sentence paragraphs and all that. So it drives me nuts. So I don't know. It's the same. It's the same in the real world, right? You basically, you have to invite people individually to things. You have to reach out to them individually. Nobody's going to say, oh, you're having a thing. Let me invite, or let me help get the word out. Not to my friends, but maybe people that are in my circle of influence, whatever it is. There isn't that reflexive notion of like, oh, I can be supportive by attending your event or by liking your post or whatever, but I can actually be helpful by just telling other people, whatever that means, right? Resharing, whatever the algorithm does. handing out your business cards, whatever it is, right? Oh, yeah, yeah. To be actually supportive, you tell other people if you want to have size, volume of attendance, right? Hey, food truck person, I love your business. I'm going to take a picture of my what I had, and that's it. I'm not going to send it or post it or tell anybody about it. And they'll be like, okay, thanks, appreciate it. Glad you enjoyed it. But that's being supportive, perhaps. But hey, I'm going to post it on an account that I get a lot of traffic on, and other people are going to like it, and more people are going to see it and whatnot. And they love that because it does help them. They have material outcomes from that sort of help. So it'd be nice if people were into that here, but I've already talked about the solipsism of Vegas. So maybe it's the sadness that we talked about, mixing in with the built-in self-centered qualities, the solipsism, which I've also talked about previously. We encounter these things in Vegas with a majority spectator factor, right? A lot of people here are simply not go-getters. They're just going to watch and see what transpires. I'm like, yeah, you can do it. And then, of course, the irritating and frustrating and soul-crushing layer of show me what you got and what's in it for me, dribbling on it, dropping as a desert topping might onto the floor, or maybe a floor wax. I am not quite sure what to make of it myself. I plan to attend, with this in mind, I plan to attend an actual meetup.com meetup. Don't ask. I hate meetup.com, but that's what everybody uses. Who would pay for the Meetup Plus Pro and all? But there's an actual meetup. I think it's the Las Vegas Startup Networking Group or something. It's an old group. Somebody's reviving it. So they're having their first meetup in 12 days, 18th. So I'm going to go, 26 people. There are 3 people that I know who have indicated they're going to go. They are not people that I would say I totally want to run into. One of them is someone who could contact me anytime, but doesn't. So, like, I didn't come here to talk to you. I came here to talk to everybody else. That's unfortunate. It's sad, and it's maybe even a little bit cheap. Oh, definitely glib. But I'm going to go to that, and that's going to be where I'm going to get a sense. It'll be a completely statistically insignificant sense, but I will get a sense about what's going on, kind of get a self-selected feel, right? It's not, I would have to go to a much larger gathering with, I'll just say more different people, more different kinds of people. But this is a self-selected, me and the group is all self-selected. So there'll be that bias inherent. But I'll try to get that feel for what is going on closer to the ground when it comes to the entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem. More data will be essential, but I got to start somewhere. I can't just, I can't read all the time. I should go and live. No, I should go talk to people in person and see what's going on. So that we will definitely talk about more. The event is on a Wednesday, so I will certainly cook up some commentary by the Friday. So that's the 18th. So not the next episode of this. This is 154. So 155, no, almost certainly 156 should have my reflections on this in-person meetup. I haven't done an in-person meetup for anything startup related in a while. So we'll see what happens. Fingers crossed, but we'll definitely talk about that and many, many other things across several upcoming episodes. But we got to get this cohort thing going so we can get Initiative 2026. That's the ticking clock, sort of. But even then, right, if it's December and we aren't quite done yet, that's what January is for. So yeah, there's no real reason to add pressure. We got enough of that. All right, that's it. My voice is hanging on, but I'm speaking more quietly. So I'll have to boost up the thing. So hopefully it sounds okay. Thanks for listening as always. And we'll call it a show. We'll see you around. Check out the Buy Me a Coffee link. You don't have to spend any money, but there are links to all the other things that I work on. If you've never heard FFS Talk, Quaggling Sand, the Let's Innovate for Vegas audio program, which does have more information about the Smarter Smart City Challenge, of course. And we'll leave it there. Take care now. Bye-bye.